So good work today. I would like to speak a little bit about the definition of Matza, but I think also I will the second part of the shir will be on a bit of an innovative way to understand Pessach versus Shavuos and Sukkot, and with that we can understand a lot of questions that I think that you probably might have had during the Agoda and the whole concept of the Pessach. Let's maybe start with Matza. A few years ago, and I found it back there, it's been recorded, I explained the difficulties in how to define Chametz. I don't know if you remember. Chametz, we don't know how Chametz is defined. We only know the simonim of Chametz. We know that if you let it for 20 minutes without doing anything, then it becomes Chametz. But we don't know what it means to become Chametz. And there are three different definitions I explained you. You have the ones that are saying, which makes the most sense, is like Moshe Feinstein, that it becomes sour. The sourness of the bread.
Yes,
what? Sour. And this word sour was also connected with sour. It's the same shoirish. And so the bread becomes sour, and it is that people like, because bread doesn't have a taste, and when it becomes a bit sour, the sourdough bread is very nice because it got already a very strong taste, which people like. Others are saying it's about the rising. It's about the fact that there are bubbles that are formed, and therefore the Chametz has been rising. That's the second definition. And then you have the third one that are saying that it is about the gluten, that it is the formation of gluten, which makes the most sense because according to the biology, it takes about 20 minutes for when you put water on in a dough with flour to the gluten to form. And the gluten is actually a molecule, is protein that lies within the wheat. And when you put water, it gets out of this molecule and it forms a closed, enormous big molecule. So it's an enormous molecule because it's like little molecules that are bound together, and it's very, very strongly together. That's why a dough, when you leave long enough, the dough, you will have it difficult to pull. It's mamish, you have to be strong-handed to be able to pull out a piece of the dough. It's mamish glue. That's why it's called gluten, is the glue. They used to use dough to close the letters, the envelopes. They used to put glue. That's why some said not to use it on Pessach, not to put your tongue on the little triangle, because there are glue. They used to have glue. Ochashulchan speaks about that it's not, it's Chumas Nuksha, whatever. But that's the idea. So we don't know today what is Chametz and what not. And at the time I told you that the Yerushalmi seems to have known. Because Yerushalmi asked a question when Chazal have a doubt, Machlokes Tanoim, if rice is Chometz or not. If somebody makes a bread from rice, is it Chometz or is it not Chometz? If it's Chometz, then we can also be Yoitze Matzo, then we can make a Matzo of rice. And then Machlokes Tanoim, one Tana says it is Mamish Chometz to rice, and therefore you could make a matzo. And the other says that it's not Chametz the rice. Chacham says that it is a sichoin. It's not Chametz the rice, and therefore we're allowed to eat. Today, by the Svardim, they do eat rice because we pass. What? Sorry.
The Tunisians mostly.
Yeah, I think so. One of the sorry. Iranians also they eat rice. So because they pass like Chacham, but Rabbi Nur holds that it's mamish Chametz the rice. So the Gemara Yerushalmi asks, "V'nivtekinu." What's the shaila? We can check today. Let's make it as. So the Chachomim there, the Yerushalmi does not explain how they would have done that. But it seems, as I always explained you, the Yerushalmi, they had a laboratorium somewhere, and you brought the Isa, they made experiments, and they had a way to test if it becomes Chometz or not. Because then they answer the question. What do they answer? So the question. So they says that they already tested it 100 years ago. That's how they tested it. And Chachomim said that it's sichoin, it stinks. I don't know what it means, sichoin. Normally sichoin means thinking, and it's something is wrong. And Rabbi Yochanan said, no, this is a very good bread. So it's a subjective definition, apparently. So you can, it's not like you put a lakmus test. I don't know, you put a paper inside, and then you see if it's yellow, it's blue, it's red, to see what it is. It's also subjective, apparently. Because Rabbi Yochanan said it's not chometz. Chacham said it is chometz, on the same thing. So that's what the Yerushalmi explained, that they tested it. So there was a test possibility in Yerushalmi, and we don't know it today. And there is a reason why we don't know it today, is, as I explained you a few years ago, is the reason why kitnius is not allowed to in Europe. One of the reasons the Aruch HaShulchan says is because people will start making bread of kitnius, and then they will say, that's exactly the same taste as rice, or it's the same taste as wheat. And then they will say, if this is not chometz, then this is probably also not chometz. And they will say probably the wheat of in Europe is not the wheat that was in Eretz Yisrael. And then they will say we can make bread of wheat or whatever it is. And so they will start messing around. And therefore, the Aruch HaShulchan says that Chazal, at the time, the Rishonim, the European Rishonim, made the Isur Gomur on kitnius. Not that kitnius, you're not allowed to eat bread of kitnius, that we're not allowed to eat anything of kitnius. Kitnius becomes an isur. That you're not even allowed to take kitnius and bake it in less than 18 minutes, then you don't have a shaila. You're not even allowed to do that because the etzem kitnius is also. So everything that comes is like a mamish, a chefze de isura. That's why the oil we're not allowed to of kitnius, according to Sam and etc. So it's mamish becomes an isur of kitnius. It's become, in order, says Aruch HaShulchan, to avoid that people should start making labs and etc. Now today we don't have these labs because we don't know. There's no rov in the world that if you bring him the iser, you bring him a dough, that he can tell you this dough is chometz or not. He has no idea. He will not be able to distinguish. The only thing he's going to ask you is how long from the time that you have made the dough till now, how long has passed. If it's less than 18 minutes, it's kosher. If it's more than 18 minutes, it's not. But he cannot define. So he cannot, if you tell him, I don't know, maybe it's new, maybe it's an old one, an old batch, he cannot define. He cannot put his finger and taste. There is no way to know what is chometz and what not. But according to the Yerushalmi, they used to know.
So it means it's a safek d'oraisa when someone eats a bread in Pessach today. If he eats a chometz real bread, it's just a safek d'oraisa. Maybe it's chometz, but it's not.
Because maybe it was cooked, maybe it was baked within the 18 minutes.
Not what you say, but the taste.
The taste,
so
yeah. So a few years ago, I told you, but again, I'm not a Pessach anyway, so I can say what I want. I can talk all the rubbish I want. But I told you that Be'etzem, according to how I understand Rav Moshe Feinstein, the bread of Kleinblatt is not chometz. Okay? Because the bread of Kleinblatt is not made with bacterial, it's made with yeast. And the bacterial is what creates the sourness, the acid, and the yeast creates the gas. The yeast, what they do is they produce a lot of gas, and therefore it rises.
So it's industrial yeast.
It's an industrial yeast, but okay, it's even if you say that it is real yeast, even if it's industrial, but it is yeast at the end of the day. But it's not by etzem chometz. And what a lot of women use soda to is also by etzem not chometz. So most of the cakes that women do at home are not chometz, and most of the breads are possibly not chometz mamish. Because
So on Kleinblatt says it's not chometz, but kitnius is mamish also.
Yeah.
No, because what is more important?
No, what I say, this is Ari Porush saying. Yeah, I know. So the we assume that everything that bread that has not been shimur, what will come to that is chometz. Okay, so if you were not careful for it not becoming chometz, it's chometz. Okay, so there is a positive definition, and we'll come to that. So the question is, how do we define then chometz? So how come that the Chazal defined the shiur mil that it's 18 minutes? So I gave a fourth reason of why chometz is the definition of chometz in Chazal is that, as I explained you at the time, everything normally, the fresher it is, the better. Yeah, fresh fruits juice is better. Fresh meat is better, right? Unless you marinate it and then it becomes better. But normally, the fresher something is, the better. By bread, it's the only thing, or not the only thing, but by bread, it is one of the particularity that the longer you wait, the better it becomes. Because the longer, sorry, for the dough, the bread is more pleasant if you wait it longer. Why? Because it becomes the sourness that we all tend to like. Apparently, some people don't like sour bread dough because they're not used to it, but it's a delicatessen for those who know. And the gluten has formed, so it becomes much more crispy. The bread is much more crispy of a sour. The outside, the crust is much more crispy because the gluten has been able to form and to close off completely. It's the texture is much better. So basically, the longer you wait, the better it is. And so Chazal said that Chametz means that it becomes, you waited long enough for it to become better. So the question is, when is it long enough? And when is it not long enough? And so probably they asked some women, and they asked them, if you wait 17 minutes, do you feel a difference? And then the women said, no, 17 minutes, no. If it is 20 minutes, yeah, then you can see it already. Okay, so they made a border 18 minutes. Shiur mil. Shiur mil is enough for the dough to be able to say, yes, that's already, we waited enough, it's getting better, but not yet visible, not yet, you can't taste it, you can't see it, you can't feel it. But the moment that you have, then it crosses the 18 minutes, then it's already, the improvement is so that for some people, they will be able to say, yes, this is a better bread than if I would have put it earlier. You understand? So it is, the shiur mil is more a mil, it's a shiur of whether or not the bread becomes already visibly or measurably better. Okay, so that's the definition that I've explained to you based on what I've seen already somewhere. So that's how I defined, we defined a few years ago what Chametz is. Okay, now let's go now to what is Matza. So Be'etzem Matza is, a definition of Matza is what we call shlilis, negative definition. What is Matza? Matza is everything that is not Chametz, that could have become Chametz and that did not become Chametz. So it is an interruption of the process of becoming Chametz is Matza. So Matza is not a positive definition, it is a shlilistik, it's a negative definition. It is something that could have become Chametz and that we interrupted it. It's a failed bread, okay? It's a failed process. The process was going to become Chametz and we stopped the definition of Chametz and we stopped the formation of Chametz and we put it in the oven. So the Matza does not have a positive definition. But Chazal apparently wanted absolutely to find a positive definition of Matza. And so they learned from a posuk which says, Ushmartem hesamatzos. So there's a posuk that clearly says there's a kind of a mitzvah to be shomer the matzos. And so they said that it's not enough to have matzos that are not becoming chometz. You also need an extra mitzvah to be shomer, a positive and active shmira of the matzah. Basically, and this is what I've seen in one of the Sforim, but which is not a halacha, I'm just giving you ideas, that it says in the Leket Yosher, Va'afilu bo Eliyahu v'omar shezu hamatzah eino shel chometz. Even Eliyahu Hanavi tells you that this is definitely not chometz, then b'choresh should be kosher. Eino yotze bo kiven shelo yishomur l'shem matzah, because there was no shmira. תכסיבו שמרתם את המצווה, פירוש לשם מצווה, שם מצווה, or mitzvah, or matzah, mitzvah's matzah, yeah? So you need, besides the matzah, to know that it has not become, you also need the shmira, and the shmira needs to be l'shem matzah. Now, this has created a lot of Rishonim. This is a few lines in the Gemara, and a lot of Rishonim had struggled to understand that mitzvah. So I will just give you, I'm not going to give you all the Rishonim, you can check it up on internet, you have a lot of, who have written all the shittas. But it seems that the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMatzos can be read into different opinions, different ways. One way is, you just have to make sure that it does not become matzah, chometz. You have to be shomer that it should not become chometz. That's the Rambam's way. So the Rambam sees it purely biologically action that you have to do. Make sure that it does not become chometz. That's the only thing that Hashem wants from us. But it has to be actively a shmira. But it's make sure that it does not become. The nafkamina is if a goy bakes matzah and a Jew is standing and he makes sure that everything is done is correctly, then it should be kosher. Yeah, because the only pshat in shmiras matzah is only that it should not become chometz. It doesn't have to have kavonas. You don't have to say yerotzoin before you make the bake the matzahs. So you don't need that. That's how the Rambam's opinion. But there are others who say no, that the whole shmira has to be l'shem matzah. In other words, I have to have a kavona when I am shomer, not when I'm doing the matzah. When I'm shomer, when I'm looking after the matzahs, that I'm looking after the matzahs in order to be using that matzahs for the mitzvah, for the first night, for the kezayis. And so they translate shmiras hamatzos, ushmartem hamatzos, as a more religious act. It's purely a religious act, that it requires a lishmo in the shmira. Not in the asiyah, but in the shmira has to be. I don't understand how can you be shomer l'shem. For me, I would not know how to think. Yeah. So what do I have to do? I have to look and make sure that everything is okay. And every time I'm thinking, I have to think this is for the mitzvah matzah, for the matzah's mitzvah. I wouldn't know what to think, and I would go. I leave it for the others who know.
This is a Shem mitzvah, so the whole procedure is...
No, but not the doing. It's not the doing, it's the shmira has to be.
You come there at 9 in the morning.
And you know, yeah.
And you know
from now on, this is going to be, yeah. But it's also the shmira, the big machlokas, if the shmira has to be from Mishas Ktsira, or Mishas Rekid, I think, and Mishas Lisha. Some say it's Mishas Lisha, most of the poskim hold it's Mishas Ktsira. So it has to be, that's why the Shmura Matzahs, you will see they are a bit different, because they have been produced differently. They're produced in a separate batch, and it's also darker. I like more Shmura Matzahs. So we buy a lot of Shmura Matzahs because I simply like it also during the year. They have a better taste. Our family, we prefer Shmura Matzahs. Machine, I'm talking about machine. We'll come to that.
So there is a potential for a little part of the wheat, if it gets water,
yeah,
even if it's not yet what do you call that?
Kemach,
Yeah, to become chametz.
Yeah.
The potential of the chametz.
Yeah, because the kernel can also become chometz. That's a chidush from Chazal. That the kernel, the chito itself, if you put water and then it starts to split, you can see a split. That is chometz. I gave a whole shiur about it. I don't think that it's chometz d'oraisa, because it's lechem, has to be chometz. Chometz is lechem, and therefore for me whiskey is not chometz d'oraisa, and so too is not a kernel, that it is a drabonon. But a lot of people hold that it is d'oraisa mamish.
But there is no test of.
No, because there is no gluten. There's no, according to all the definitions, there's nothing. There's what we discussed before. I don't see what is the chometz, because it's split. So yeah, the water had an impact. But as you call that chometz, what do you call chometz then? If you say it's sour, maybe because it became sour, but still it means the sourness in bread, not the sourness in chito, in a popcorn like that.
You'll have a lot of
No, but then I won't be able to. Once you become a rov, you are bound to to the elite that defines what is correct, politically correct, and what not. There's also a shaila if it is only the shmira is only lekatchila, or it is also b'di'evet. In other words, is it even more? There's even a shaila. Some hold that it is a mitzvah to be shomer. That is some mitzvah. When you process the matzahs, there is a mitzvah to be shomer, but it's not that it is a t'nai in the matzahs. But when you prepare the matzahs, you have to be shomer. It's a separate mitzvah. But it's not that if I don't, then the matzahs have a problem. So there is a kind of an extra mitzvah to be shomer the matzahs. And then as I explained you, according to Rashi and a lot of Rishonim, the shmira is only on the lishmo is only on the shmira and not on the asiyah, but they have some Rishonim that hold it's also the asiyah has to be l'shem matzahs. And that's difficult because that's not mefurish. There's no makor for that, not in the Chumash and not in the Chazal, that also the lisha and the belilas and the afiyah has to be l'shem matzah. We see it because by tzitzis you have an inyan. Tzitzis have to be done l'shem tzitzis because it says v'osu lochem letzitzis. Yeah, v'osu lochem tzitzis. So you have the idea that you have to do it for the tzitzis, the asiyah. But he doesn't say any asiyah. He says v'shmachtem es hamatzos, only the shmira. And so they want to say the Torah means asiyah. Okay. So you have a lot of different opinions in whether it is the doing it that has to be l'shem matzah, is the shmira. Even if it is the shmira, does it have to be lishmo religiously, or the shmira is tam shmira? Make sure that it doesn't become matzah, chometz, or it's a lishmo. It's for the mitzvah. You have to think. It's like a yirutzen that you have to say it's a religious act, or is it purely a biological act? And also if it is b'di'evet yotze or not yotze. And so therefore, this has created a big balagan. So lekatchila, we take always shmur matzahs for the Seder night, and then the problem started when we started to do machines. It started off with the first machines that did the rechaim, the grinding of that was the beginning, and then they used the waterfall or the windmills. And then what happens then? What is the shmira when you grind it's made by a machine? Is it a shmira lishmo? Can you be shmira lishmo or not? A lot of shilas. That's why today I've seen that rechaim shel yad. Yeah, this is the rechaim shel yad. There is a chumra of rechaim shel yad. So where somebody there never was, I don't know how he did it, but he had to do it with a hand. And then they started to make a process also where even the belila, how do you call it? Belila, the kneten in Yiddish. I don't know how you say it in English. And then you had machines that put it already in the oven and took it out from the oven. And so this was machines, but it was still mechanical machines with the power of water, or maybe even what do you call it, engine of benzene. And then came the electric ones. And then when the electric was developed, it started to be spread across the world. And then suddenly there were two big camps, two camps in Judaism, the pro-machines and the anti-machines. And this created a big balagan. A lot of svorim were written pro and the svorim against, and then there was an answer, etc. There's a lot of patriots, as Rav Zevin calls it, for the machines, and a lot of patriots for the anti-machine. And basically, the anti-machine, he calls is mevutel. They stopped fighting against it. It became so spread anyway that they stopped fighting against it. And he also says that if the machines is done properly and the hersher is also done properly, it is possibly better than hand matzahs. That's how Rav Zevin, I will say what Rav Zevin says. The Moadim Ba'alocha is a famous big Talmid Chochem, and you don't know Rav Zevin, is a famous and a big Talmid Chochem. So Yeah, it's not a Boisek Ador. Let's put it that way. That's why your question is a valid question. Who is Rav Zevin? You could have said it in two ways. You can say, who is Rav Zevin? You bring me, or no, I understand. Il était un rouf? Ouais, non, je pense pas. Il avait un poste de rabbin? Ah, ok.
Je peux seulement dire que dans les shiurim que j'ai suivis tous les jours chez Rav Levitsky,
Ouais, ah ouais. Ouais, ouais.
C'était un standard.
For me also, this is my Rebbe. This is my Rebbe. And, okay, he says, Hakol Tului betiv amchoinu betiv hashgocha. Im Eilehem sheloi beseder yesh mokum l'chol achshoshe shel oisrim. V'im amchoinu mechun, k'mon dis amchoinu mechuna, ve'yazihiros hein ala goiva oroi, kashrusen hi lemalo mikol pikbuk, ulai lemalo mizu shebamafias shel yav. So it's maybe even better than the hand matzahs. And so basically the question is, the halachic question is that even if you want to say it's b'diavad, it's not only lekatchila, it needs b'diavad shmira. That the b'diavad, the shmira has to be l'shem matzah. That you have to do it even if the asiyah has to be l'shem matzah. Then the question is still, if I have a machine and I switch on the machine, and when I switch on the machine, I'm thinking this is going to be l'shem mitzvahs matzah, is it good enough? You understand? Why not? Why does it only when I do like that, but when I do like this, not? Why? And a little act, okay, it's stuck a little. It's just to press on a button. But legabe Shabbos, this is a melucha. So this is a melucha. So this is my act that I'm going to do. And so a lot of Rov poskim today will be, unless the Hasidic, but the most poskim will be today that it is 100% kosher. And like I told you once, by us at home, we only eat mashim matzahs. We are makpet on not to eat ham matzahs. No, but the Hasidim, they are makpet on ham matzahs. What? Sons. What?
Yeah, they makpet on hand matzahs.
On hand matzahs. And they even say it's chometz gomo. The machine, yeah.
How do they base their thought?
So Rav Moshe once told me that it is also a political, that there is also kind of a political aspect behind that, a social aspect, economic aspect, that it's also, 100%. I did not. So yeah, so you take away parnosa, you take parnosa from Bochum and people need parnosa. A machine, hand matzahs is a whole enterprise. A machine matzah is what? Yeah. So in any case, so Betzem, it is clear that when a person is oimed al gabov, it's kosher, even when a goy or cheresh shoyte v'kutna are making it. Mishnah Berurah clearly says that it should be okay, and so a machine matzah is not worse than somebody's oimed al gabov. That the machine is only worse than a goy or a cheresh or a shoyte and a kutna. So basically, this is the heter and maybe even the hidur, and for us it is a hidur because it's a minig, is to have machine matzahs. But not to forget, it has to be shmura, and that's the problem. With hand matzahs, they're all shmura. I don't think that they have non-shmura hand matzahs. You have non-shmura hand matzahs? I don't think it exists. What?
Academically speaking, I don't think it would make sense.
No. Yeah, it would not make sense. But for those who eat machine matzahs, they have to be careful because the first kezais have to be shmura. So they have to look if it's a shmura matzahs. If it's not shmura matzahs, according to Rav Rishonim, is not yoytze. Oh, so the shmira, what they do is already mishas k'tzira. So all the shmura means mishas k'tzira. Yeah. What? Yeah. Oh. So that's what I'm saying. So lekatchila, a person, and because according to a lot of poskim, if it's not mishas k'tzira, it's not yet b'diavad even. And so therefore one has to be careful. Always to check for the first kezais, for the Seder night, to have shmura matzahs. It's written on the box. It's clearly written. And it's also different, like I said, it looks different. You can see, I can recognize a shmura matzah from a non-shmura. Yeah, so you see the difference. And especially in the night, also what you eat during the meal should also be shmura. So you should have, the whole night should only eat shmura matzahs, not to eat the other matzahs, because according to the Rambam, misha-ochal kezayis means that if you eat more than a kezayis, you also yotze the mitzvah. And so you can be yotze the mitzvah also, not only one kezayis, but if you eat with the fish, those who eat with the fish, I mean, about the, what, sorry? The gebrokt, yeah, but the matzah that you eat during the meal also should be shmura matzahs. Not to forget, so I know that sometimes people forget, they're a bit stressed about the Pessach. In the first night has to be shmura. That's what I call shmura matzahs. People think shmura matzahs means han matzahs. No. Shmura matzahs means that there's a shmura from a special shmura l'shem mitzvahs matzah.
And the chutzlor, it's 2 nights? Or?
In 2 nights, yeah, we don't make a difference. We don't make a difference. But as the second night, we do as if it was the first night. So all the chumras that you have in the first night, you have also in the second night. Yeah. You're not allowed to even not to do it, because the idea is to make as if. It's a bit, you have to be, what do you call it? Schizophrenic a bit, like, yeah. Now, yeah. I already spoke about it. The Rab Sadigon holds that it is Minatoira the second night. That it was already Moshe Rabbeinu already Tzaloch Moshe Messinai that you have to keep. What? Yeah. But I already spoke that Rab Sadigon, the Goinim, they used this expression Aloch Moshe Messinai when they felt that there was a zilzul. Remember that I said to you once, I gave you a shir a few weeks ago. And so Rab Sadigon says, no, this is the Raisa Mamish. That Moshe Rabbeinu received on Sinai that when the Jews will be in Chutz Loretz, they will keep 2 days the Yom Tov. That they have to keep 2 days Yom Tov.
The first place was in Sinai.
It was in Chutz Loretz. They had 2 days. Yeah. There was no Eretz to be a Chutz Loretz. Yeah. Okay. I already explained you that the way that I see matzah is like a mincha. We eating a korban mincha that is allowed to be eaten outside the Beis Hamikdash. It's allowed to be eaten by a tumah, by a balmum, etc. And so it is a korban that we are eating. And so the idea of why does Chazal particularly wanted to give it a chiyuv lishma is in order to give it a kedusha. Yeah, to create that this matzah is like a korban. So it has to be l'shem mitzvahs matzah. Like a korban needs a kavona, machshova to create it, to become a korban. Here also the matzah becomes a korban, and but the korban that we allow to eat in the home. So those who hold that you have a l'shem mitzvahs matzah that you have to be lishmo, it is mamash because it is a korban. I would like to now start with the definition of what is Pesach. There's a few ways that I can go. It's the first time that I'm going to say this concept. But in astrology, those who believe in astrology, Chazal believes in astrology in any case, is the moment that you are born defines your identity, your character. The moment that you're born, they come out of the mother, the stars, the position of the stars at that particular moment, in this hour, defines exactly your characteristics and your character, your identity. And so in other words, the moment that we were born, when were we born? It is when we came out of Mitzrayim. The Yetzias Mitzrayim is the moment that we were born. And it seems to be saying that Pesach is a celebration of a snapshot. A snapshot, I mean a momentopname, and it's a moment that when we came out of Mitzrayim, that we have to remember that particular moment, that Avodim Moyinu, that's what Shmuel says, Avodim Moyinu paru b'Mitzrayim, vayotzienu Hashem mishom b'yot chazoko or whatever. So this is a momentopname of the Yetzir when we came out of Mitzrayim. Not to start speaking about what happened afterwards. Because during the Pesach, we do not mention Kriyas Yamsuf. We do not mention the Mon. We do not mention the Teure. We do not mention the Eretz Yisrael. We do not mention the Beis Hamikdash. But we only mention, according to Shmuel, this particular moment that we came out of Mitzrayim. So in other words, there is no evolution. It is really the snapshot of the perception of what happened when we came out of Mitzrayim. It means, in other words, that the essence of our identity, who we really are, was defined on the moment that we came out of Mitzrayim. That hour, or whatever it is, the few hours that Klal Yisrael came out of Mitzrayim, that defined our identity. Okay? It's really the definition of who we are. Our core essence of who we are is defined in the time that we came out of Mitzrayim. And at that moment, Be'etzem, what happened? What did we feel on that moment? We felt good on one hand, but also bitterness on the other hand. We were stressed. Was there simcha in Klal Yisrael when they came out of Mitzrayim? Were they rejoicing? Were they dancing? There was no dancing. There's no Chazal, not in the Chumash. People were not dancing with music and Yaakov Shveki. There was singing and there was nothing. There was a quiet what? We sang, but there is no simcha, really a simcha. But also anyway, that's already 7 days after. I'm talking about the Yetzias Mitzrayim was quite a stressful moment. It's mixed feelings. On one hand, Avodim Oyinu, Vayatzeinu Mishon. Yes, we have the moment of bitterness together with a mix of kind of hope, but there is no simcha.
It's a bit like the first day a prisoner comes out of prison.
The first day that he comes out, he is like lost in essence. Yeah, till he has to rebuild himself, and then time has to heal, and time has to help him. But when he comes out, the moment he comes out, it's a mixed feelings. Chazal are asking question if there is simcha on Pesach. Why? Because nowhere in the Posuk there is never mentioned simcha by Pesach. It's mentioned by Shavuos and twice by Sukkot. And so Chazal say that twice by Sukkot, one of them put by Pesach. It means Pesach is not a Yomei Simcha in essence, because we were not the Simcha. And what we have to do is we have to reenact ourselves on the moment that we came out of Mitzrayim, because that's our begin point. It is a point. It is really a second kind of. That second has to be analyzed and has to be exactly understand, because we can only, because in essence, a nation and even human being, when he's born and then he grows and he changes according to circumstances, but the circumstances can be different. There is Bechira. It could have happened like that. I could have ended another way that maybe I would have ended with Peyes and Shtreimer, or Chaz v'Sholom the other way. But everything depends on the circumstances of your life. And so the only thing that brings me back to who I am is the day that I was born. That brings me back to who I am, my identity. The core identity that I've received is from the moment that I was born. Klal Yisrael, this is the identity. We don't want on Pesach to think about things that happened after Yetzias Mitzrayim, because that's already circumstantial. That is why when we mention Har Sinai, not Sinai Satoire, the Mon, when we mention the entering at Israel, when we mention the Beis Hamikdash, we say Dayenu. Dayenu. Okay, what does it mean Dayenu? How can we say Dayenu? If you would not enter at Israel, what's the whole point? If you would not receive the Torah, what is the whole point? No, we don't want to mention it, because that's not the point tonight. So what do? But we want to mention it because at the end of the day, it is who we are. So we mention it in a negative way. Dayenu. Kind of we're saying it would have been okay. So we indirectly mention it, and then once we've mentioned it, then we're already obliged to thank Hashem. But the moment of the Seder night is not about the Mon, is not about the Kriyas Yamsuf, is not about the Sinas HaTorah, the Beis Hamikdash, Eretz Yisrael. It is really that only particular starting point, because it's the essence of who we are. This is the essence of the moment that we were born. Sukkot, 1 second. Sukkot is not the end, it's the end point. The end point, Sukkot reflects where we are going to be eventually, where everybody, the whole world will be Tachas Sukkot on the Rebbeinu Shloino. So this is the end point. Sukkot is the begin point. And Shavuos is what? Is not a point, but there is a time between the begin point and the end point. Time. Time is Shavuos. What is Shavuos? The name Shavuos is weeks. Weeks is days, is time. This is the journey. Shavuos, we celebrate the journey. That's why we are counting days. Because Pesach, there is no time. Pesach is a particular moment. We don't mention time. We don't mention what happened after, and we don't mention what happened before. If we mention what happened before, it's only to understand the feeling that we felt when we came out of Mitzrayim. It's to understand who we are, that we were avodim and we became free. But it's not a kind of, and therefore, no, this is what we have to understand, because this is how we go back to who we really are. Our core identity started off with the Yetzias Mitzrayim, and we end up with Sukkot. And Shavuos is really the journey. That's why we're counting days. It's a strange thing. Why should we count days? Because only after Pesach do we start to count the days. Yeah, I'm saying even after Pesach, because only the first day is called Pesach. The rest is days Chag HaMatzah. That's another shiur maybe during Pesach. But only after Pesach, when we finish the Pesach, then we start to count the days, because then time becomes a relevant dimension. Because it's that when time helps us in evolve and grow and change and mutate and transform to who we are, where we are today. But every time, once a year, we have to go back. Hashem wants us to go back to remind us who we were, the starting point, so that we know from where we were come from, so that we understand who we really are. We were avodim, and Hashem, without our merit, we had no merit. He took us out of Mitzrayim, and he made unbelievable nisim for us. Biyot chazoko, biyot romo. So this is really the essence of what we have to remember, is who we were at the time, at this particular time when we came out of Mitzrayim. Every Jew has to think, he has to really reenact that moment of coming out of Mitzrayim. I never saw somebody reenacting the Makkos or the Avdus. There's no point of reenacting the Avdus. The only that taking, they used to, my grandfather used to do that, to put, I think you do it every year, no? You do it, you put it on your thing and you go out. You enact this moment of going, we were in Ramses and we're going to Sukkot. That is the moment that we have to remember in Pesach. It's not the time, it's a snapshot. It's a picture that we have to reenact, but there is no time. And that is only afterwards that the time becomes relevant, because then we have a journey, and the journey brings us to Sukkot. Sukkot is 6 months later, is the opposite time. So it's basically, Sukkot is the end point when Hashem the whole world is a universal Yom Tov, that the whole world will be under the Sukkot of Hashem. Says the Novi says that, and Chazal are telling us, etc. It's Galus Hashchina. But Pesach is purely, it is a psychological understanding of who we are, so that we understand how come that we are where we are today and we are here. And also maybe you'll find two nations that are like us. Maybe you'll find another nation that is like us. But since they come from a different cause, they are also different. You understand? Maybe the Kurd, I don't know which, they are maybe similar to like us now, yeah? Maybe, I don't know. But since the journey is not the same journey, it is the journey that defines where we are going. Maybe they went like that, and then eventually they will go in a different direction. Because that is why the Matza is the essence. Matza represents the essence when there is no time. 2 points. What is Matza? It is the essence of bread without any additions. So it is the core of what the bread is, and there is no time. So there is no waiting. So it is purely you bake, you prepare it, and you throw it into the oven. So there's no time. So it is really the essence of the food, of the bread that we eat, in order to remind us that this is the essence of that this is a day of essence, and it is not a simchatic moment, similar to agriculture. That is something with which I also seen. An how do you call it? Farmer is not besimcha on Pesach, because what does he do? Soirim he cut, soirim he has, but soirim is for the animals. It's not for humans. Yeah, humans difficult to digest soirim. Chitim is much better. This is a human, but he doesn't know if it's going to grow. He sees it growing a little bit, but it takes still 7 weeks to grow. So he has 50 days to wait till it's going to grow. By the ksira, what does he go when he starts to cut? Then is a simcha, because he's already cut. He knows it's cut it already. It's not going to fall by the rain, etc. So he's been able to cut. But the simcha is not complete. When is the simcha complete? When you take it you let it dry in the field, and you take it inside your home, that is a double simcha. That's why this says 2 times simcha. So there is no simcha by Pesach, there is one simcha by Shavuos, and there is a double simcha by Sukkot. Because that is how also the cycle of the farmer is also being described. That the farmer is nervous over it. He's happy on one hand, his hope, but he's also nervous. He doesn't know how he's going to end up. And it is only once he starts cutting that he has a simcha. That's why there is no simcha by Pesach. Yes.
Where especially is important for you when you move from slavery to there is a single point at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's not at the market comparison, it's not when we are out. So for what moment we changed?
It is from the moment we left, we crossed the border from Ramses to Sukkot.
Before we were still in the same country. Even Yom Tov, came back, but no matter before Yom Tov, we were still in Egypt. When we wanted to at the beginning, we were in Egypt.
Yeah, I thought that we went to Sukkot is not straight away from Ramses at Sukkot. Sukkot is be'etzem. Oh, that's my pshat. I have another pshat, a chidush. Sukkot is the Sukkot from Yaakov Avinu. They went all the way to Eretz Yisrael. They were already close to come to Eretz Yisrael, but Hashem made them go back. Yeah, it is a medrash, because the shaila is Sukkot so shaftes b'nei Yisrael. What is the pshat? So normally we only have, because of Rashi, we only have 2. The Sukkot Mamish, Chazal, Sukkot Mamish or Banan Yaakov. But then there's a medrash that the Sukkot means the city of Sukkot. And the city of Sukkot, it says in Sefer Bereshit, Yaakov Avinu built the city of Sukkot just before he came to Eretz Yisrael. So it's mamish by the border. Yeah, I know they put. Yeah, but the Chumash, this is you don't. Yeah. I'm reading a text as it was written. It says, Beram says at Sukkot. Sukkot says in Sefer Bereshit, Yaakov Avinu just before he entered Eretz Yisrael built it. So I'm assuming that Sukkot is the same. And then when the Torah says, Ki beSukkot shafti es bnei Yisrael, it is the city of Sukkot. I put them from Ramses. When I free them, I put them in Sukkot. Yeah.
So that's what is the point for you when?
I don't know. Yeah.
We move. What is this? So that's very important.
It's for me. It's the crossing the border, and you're saying that the Yam Suf was still in Mitzrayim, wasn't it? It still didn't cross the border. For me, it is crossing the border. I don't know where the border was. I don't know if it existed, the concept of a border as we have it today, a GPS.
Brings their army.
Yeah, but
so you can imagine at least.
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So suddenly,
yeah. Maybe in the night. Yeah.
When you rebel, when you believe, I don't know.
Yeah. For me, it's the going from Ramses to Sukkot, whatever it means. Now you're saying that Sukkot, since Klal Yisrael, since the Mitzrim could run till there to chase after them, that means that they are not yet freed. Yeah.
The point is when they reach out of the borders.
Out of the borders of Mitzrayim. Yeah. That is the moment. That's what we have to remember.
And then we came back to Israel.
Yeah, and then we kind of came back. Not mamish to Mitzrayim, but we went back to the south. We went back to south, yeah. Because the Derech HaPlishtim, and it says there that you already were koroi. It says in the Pasuk that they were close. What do I mean close? Sukkot is very close. So they were already close to Eretz Yisrael, but they went back because to receive the Torah. It's also, I spoke already about it, the Chazon Ish, there's a whole Chazon Ish, there's a stira in Beshalach. And I don't, yeah, I don't know. For me, it's coming out. Naturally, yeah, I understand your question, but for me, it is the coming out of, and this is what we have to remember. So Pesach is a starting point, Sukkot is the end point, and Shavuos is the journey. Journey means time, the evolution of the Jewish people, and that is why we bring Chametz, because Chametz is, the idea is that it's time related. Chametz is time, yeah? You wait. That is the whole idea, that you wait. And Matza is you don't wait. It is a snapshot. And so therefore, this is the whole idea. That's why Shmuel says that the whole Agoda Yoyotze, when you say Avodim Hoyinu Leparo B'Mitzrayim, and Vatzienu Hashem Mishom B'Yot Chazuk, I don't know how the Lashon is. This is the Agoda, because this is the essence of what we have to do. This is how the Agoda starts. If you say that posuk, that sentence, you are Yoytze, the mitzvah of Agoda of Yitzias Mitzrayim, because that's the essence, not the mon. That's why we say paket. What do we say? What does it mean, dayenu? What do you mean, dayenu? What? We will be hungry, we'll die from hunger. He says, no, because dayenu means that you've done already. You don't need to mention it. Then afterwards, that you mention it anyway, in a negative way, Allah has come overcome. We have an opportunity to thank Hashem. But that's not the thanking. Sorry?
It says you're not yoitz, don't mention that.
Yeah, because the Pessach is the freedom, and the Matza Moror is the slavery. And so this moment of changing, when you la basculation, when you go from one to another, you still have both. You carry with you the Abdus, and you go to the freedom. Like you said yourself, when you are the first day of when you come out of a jail, after being many years in jail, you're not free. It takes time to mentally be free. So you're still in the Abdus, and it takes time. It's not it's a process that takes time. And that's Shavuos. Shavuos is the time. We celebrate this time that we have the time to grow and to evolve and to become really Ben Choirin and the whole idea till we are where we are today. That's the Shavuos. That's why it's Chag HaShavuos. It's a Chag of time. What do you mean Shavuos? Shavuos is weeks, yeah? It's time. What do you mean we celebrate time? Because that's the point. Pesach, we don't celebrate time. We celebrate the snapshot, the fact that we don't have time. That the time is not really, it's really the moment of birth and not afterwards. Because the mon is not hecher. If Klal Yisrael would not have made the Egel, we would have gone straight to Eretz Yisrael, and I don't know, we would have not even received, maybe even the receiving of the Torah was not muchach directly. We could have received the Torah after we came to Eretz Yisrael, as the Chazon Ish explained. So all these elements are not muchach. The only thing that is muchach, had to happen, is Avdus, Yetzir, Biyot Chazoko, Ubehem Eseh Shvotim, which is in Bris Ben Absorim. Hashem promised Avraham. This had to happen. All the rest that happened in the history was not muchochim. It did not have to happen. The Mon not, and Sinas HaTorah not in the way that we have in Sinai. Maybe we would have received the Torah in Eretz Yisrael. We don't know. These are all circumstantial. But it had to happen because this is part of our identity. To remember always we were avodim, and Hashem took us out without our merit. Also, Hashem himself showed us his true identity. Not the one that today is hidden behind. It's Hashem Elokim, but its true identity was hidden. This is what we saw. So this is something which I wanted to say. So just to make a quick summary, we saw the fourth definition of Chametz: sourness, rising, and the gluten, which is the crispiness of the bread and the strongness, that it's not the texture. And the fourth one is the waiting so that it should become better. And this is the definition of, and I said that the Yerushalmi had the laboratorium to taste it, and the Bavli not. I explained that the kitnius was in order for us to avoid comparing, trying to do our own home labs, and then to taste it, and then to say, if that's not chometz, then this is also not chometz, and then we'll end up eating chometz on Pesach. And then I told you the definition of Matza. A lot of Rishonim hold the definition is purely not chometz, but some of the Rishonim and the Gemara says, "Ushmachtem es hamatzah," that you have to put an active, a positive action into the matzah, which is the shemira. You have to be shomerit lishmo, and this is how we paskin that the matzah has to have a shemira lishmo, meaning that for the first kezayis you need matzah shmura. And I explained you that this is the idea that it is like a mincha. It needs lishmo also. It's a chiddush from the Gemara. It's not mefurish in the Apostle. That's why the Rambam does not hold of this. And then I explained you that the astrology says that the moment the person is born creates his character, creates his core identity. Similarly, the moment that Klal Yisrael is born is his identity. Since we have evolved after so many years, we will evolve and we'll continue evolving. Klal Yisrael of now is not the same as Judaism of 500 years ago, because we evolve. But in order to know who we really are, we have to go back to the moment of our birth. And the moment of our birth is a particular moment of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And that moment is not a moment of simcha. It's a moment of coming out of jail. And we have a lot of doubts and stress, and we don't know. We are happy on one hand, but we are not the simcha completely. And so Pesach is not a moment of pure simcha, but it is a begin point. It's how to remember where we come from, because if we know where we come from, we understand where we're going to. And the going to that, and the end point is Sukkot, which is the Sukkot of the Shechina that is going to be over the whole world. And the whole journey to go from the begin point to the end point, this is Shavuot, because then we celebrate time. We celebrate the days that pass in the weeks. And so in other words, the journey is the celebration of Shavuot. Hence also we eat chometz. The Beis HaMikdash will bring chometz in Shtei HaLechem on Shavuot. And the idea why we don't mention the Mon is we do mention the Mon, but we mention the Mon in a negative way. We want to mention it, but we know that we should not mention it because it's only the moment. So we mention it, you don't need the Mon. But now that we have the Mon, alachas kamu v'kamu. But that's we are negating, because we know that we should not mention the things that happen. We only should mention the walking outside of Mitzrayim with the matzahs on our shoulder, and this is what we have to remember. This is the begin point of of the birth and the begin point of Klal Yisrael and our identity, who we are. And this is apparently, if you would make a psychoanalytic to understand the Jewish people, maybe you can go back and try to see us from a nation that started off as an Eved, and that Hashem made such unbelievable things that this kind of makes us a little bit interesting characters, the Jewish people, maybe because of that starting point. Maybe we take to the Geula Shleimo, and that it should be a Poira Sukkah Shulam Aleinu V'Kol Am Yisrael V'Noimar Amen.